You may have heard the term vibe coding and want to learn how to do that, but have no clue where to get started. I have you covered. In this video, I'm going to give you all you need to start vibe coding. In subsequent videos, we will cover more advanced topics like securing all that vibe code. So stay tuned for that and subscribe so that you don't miss it. Now, this video is going to be raw, not too much scripting and not too much editing. I find that most of you enjoy it that way. I know I do. No fluff, just down to how do you do things, and more importantly, my thought process behind it along the way. So let's get started. Now, this content that I'm going to provide to you comes from my private Skool group where I'm supporting AI founders that are launching their own startups and doing it securely. And so you can find that information about that in the link below this video. If that applies to you, be sure to check it out. But we're going to take some content from that group, and there's much more within that group. All right, now, essentially, what is vibe coding? Vibe coding is the ability to speak or type into an application and have that application write another application for you. And so, yes, you no longer need to be a developer. You can have AI write the code for you. Now, ultimately, what are we talking about? We're talking about developing an application. Now, whenever you're going to develop an application, particularly for business, if you want to sell that application or access to that application, you need to solve a problem. And all business boils down to solving problems. If you solve, you are compensated according to the size of the problem that you solve. Okay, but when you're starting out, I recommend that you look for small problems that are easy for you to solve. Then you work your way up to bigger problems. But ultimately, whenever you're looking to solve a problem, we'll start over here on the left. Number one, you're either going to find a group that has a problem and then solve that problem for them. Or you find an influencer that has a problem and you solve their problem. Or number three, you use AI to ideate or help you discover what problems are out there. And it goes far beyond your imagination because AI has been trained on all of the information out there on the internet. So it's a good idea to start sometimes with AI and ideate over a set of problems and flush them out. Number two here, no matter how you got the problem, we want to use AI to flush that problem out and to help us design a solution to that problem. And then number three, we want to build an app. Now, traditionally, you could hire a team, and that's not recommended because that'll cost you somewhere between $10,000 and $100,000 to develop your app. I definitely don't recommend that. Or you could build the app from scratch. This would require you to have a background in software development and be a coder already. And if that were the case, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. All right. Number three, you could build the app from a template. And until recently, that was probably the best way to do it, but still, you're going to need to know some coding and you're going to need to know how to complete that template. But these days, with the advent of AI, you can have AI build the app for you. And that's what I recommend. Now, you'll find that coders of all types, those that have zero experience with coding, are using AI. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, this topic called vibe coding. Or even developers that have a lot of experience with developing, they're also leveraging AI as a superpower, and they were becoming superhuman. They can do 10 times or 100 times what they otherwise could do by leveraging AI. But the good thing is that you, with zero coding experience, can also leverage AI and become a coder today. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the process and the tech stack that you're going to need. That's just a fancy way of saying the technology that you're going to need to do this with. All right, now, the first thing that you need to be aware of is something called GitHub. GitHub is a code repository. The purpose of it is so that you can store your code up in the cloud, and this way you get it off of your machine as quickly as you can. Now, you're going to do the development on your machine. By the way, you can do it in the cloud, and we're going to show you some of those examples here in this video. But ideally, you're going to want to get to a point where you can develop it locally and you can test it locally. It's just faster that way. But then you're going to want to save snapshots of that code up into the cloud. And we use a tool called GitHub for that. And in a moment, we're going to install that, and you'll see that, and we're going to give you some survival skills in this video and in subsequent videos. But don't worry, you don't have to become an engineer to use these tools. In fact, a lot of times AI will use them for you. You just need to tell it to, for example, push your code up into GitHub, and it will do that underneath the hood for you. You don't even need to know the commands, but we are going to have to install it, and we'll talk about that. The next thing I want you to be aware of in your tech stack is Next.js. Now, Next.js happens to be the most popular, the dominant web platform out there these days. Now, this changes from time to time, and they've been leading for the last couple years. But before that, there were other popular frameworks, such as PHP or .NET or Java. And if you come from previous coding experience, you may be more familiar with those frameworks. If that's the case, I still want to encourage you to take a look at Next.js. It is by far the easiest web framework to use, to learn, and it is AI does the best with that framework. It has been trained intensely on that code base. So it's highly, highly recommended that you use Next.js for your web applications. You can also use that for mobile apps. This would not be native apps. There are native or apps that only run on mobile devices. And we'll take a look at that eventually as well. But did you know that if your web page is formatted properly, and Next.js was designed to do that formatting for you very easily, then if you do that, then you can very easily view your app on a mobile device. And that's desirable because most people access the internet through their mobile device these days. All right, now with Next.js, you need to understand that there's a company behind that called Vercel. And they not only developed that web framework, they have a very generous cloud hosting platform called Vercel that you can host your web app into the cloud for free. And it's very generous. You would have to be using a lot of it before you needed to pay for it. Okay, so you could be using this thing for years for free, depending on how popular your application becomes. And oh, by the way, if it becomes super popular and you have lots of users, then you won't mind paying them. I promise you, because you are already at that point be making far more than the $20 or so a month that it would cost you to use that tool. But very generous free program, highly recommended. And we're going to sign up for that in a moment. The next tool is called Tailwind. And Tailwind and ShadCN, these are plugins that go into Next.js that allow you to handle making it pretty, okay, and the formatting of your website. That's really all that you need to know. Now, under that, that's the front end. On the back end, we're going to have a database. Okay, now the two popular databases out there are SQL and NoSQL. Okay, and that stands for Structured Query Language. It's a very old term, and it's like 30 or more years old probably. And there are two types of database. There are actually many more, but there are two commonly used ones when it comes to web applications, and that's SQL formatted databases or NoSQL formatted databases. And the most popular SQL database is Postgres. And you can access Postgres through this website called Supabase. And you could do that. And a lot of people do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's probably one of the more popular methods. But the one that I recommend that you get started with is MongoDB. And MongoDB is a NoSQL database framework. And it's very easy to use. And all you need to know is a little bit of structured JSON, or it's just a file. So all of your data records go into files, and it's very flexible. And we'll get more into that, but it's free as well out on this site. It's run by a company called Atlas, and they have MongoDB. And you can just go to mongodb.com and sign up for that. And we'll do that in a moment. The next thing that you need to know about is Clerk. Okay, Clerk is going to handle all of your users for you and your user authentication. And one of the things we're going to talk heavily about on this channel, the whole reason I set up this channel, is to help you understand the security aspects of vibe coding. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of people out there talking about that. So I'm going to be that guy, right? And I'm going to help you do this securely. So one of the first things that you need to be aware of, and we talked about this in my last video, make sure that you check that one out. We talked about one of the key aspects of security is something called authentication. And that's the ability for somebody to come to your website and to log in, right? And then to keep other people out of your website, including bad people, right? And so Clerk is a really good way to do that. They make it super easy. And we're going to set that up and roll in that here in a few minutes as well. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And then what that will handle all of the user authentication for us in our application. Okay. Now there's another product out there that you could use, and I've used this as well. And it's a little more advanced. It's called Outceta. It is not free, but as you build more sophisticated applications, I think you'll graduate probably into Outceta. It has more features and functionality. Like for example, there's a help desk in there. And there's a lot more just functionality. It's a fully functioning customer relation management or CRM tool. Okay, and you can send emails out of there. You can support your users all from this platform, but it's not free. I think it starts at $49 a month. So again, I recommend you start with clerk.com and you'll be good to go. All right, Clerk will also help you set up subscriptions. So this is a new feature of theirs where they actually have subscription support. Before that, we would use Stripe, but they will actually connect to Stripe for you and make it even easier on you. Okay, now Stripe is used for all of the credit card processing. Okay, today on all modern websites use Stripe, and they will handle that for you. And believe me, you don't want to roll your own credit card processing. That is very difficult. It's very risky from a security point of view, and there's a lot of compliance issues. It would cost you a lot if you tried to do that just to become compliant and put all of the security that's required for that. So there's this company called Stripe, and they do that for you, right? So why would you even bother messing with that? And so highly recommended, again, that you use Stripe. And so we'll sign up for an account for that. And then OpenRouter is the last one as far as your tech stack that you need to be aware of. Now, OpenRouter allows you to consolidate all of the AI models in one spot, right? And they have something called an API. It's an application programming interface that allows you to just hit that one API and you can get access to all of the AI models out there. That means that you only have to give them your credit card. All right. These models, there are free models. And by the way, you can get free models through them, but they won't be good for our purposes. Like when we're developing these applications, the free models just won't get it. They just won't, they won't cut it. But the good news here is if you register with OpenRouter, then you'll be able to put your credit card in one place, and then you can switch the models that you want to use through their API, and you don't have to go register like with OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or you name it, like a dozen different model providers out there. So I highly recommend that you register for an account and get an API key on OpenRouter, and we'll do that here in a moment as well. All right. Now, there are a number of other platforms down here that we can use to also do vibe coding, and they will handle a lot of this stuff for you. All right. But there's a limit to them. There's a limit to what they can do. The first two that I'll talk to you about is v0.dev and bolt.new. Okay. They're very popular, and I highly recommend that you even get started with them. All right. And we're going to take a look at them. Another one is called Lovable, and they had a recent update, and it's very easy to use, and highly recommend you take a look at that as well. Figure out which ones of these that you like. And then these are good to get started with your application. All right. They will get you a good start, but there's a limit to what they can do. Trust me, after you've played with them for a few weeks, you'll start to run into those limits. All right. And then you're going to need something more heavy duty and more, purpose fit for a developer. Even though you're a vibe coder, you're still becoming some sort of developer, even though you don't even need to know any lines of code. And that's the cool part about it. AI would do it all for you. But the tool of choice these days is called Claude Code. Okay, and you can run Claude Code in many different places. You can run it on the command line, whether you're on Windows or on Mac or Linux. I happen to be on Mac. You can run it just in the command line, and you don't need an interface or an integrated development environment called an IDE. You can do it if you like within the command line, but it's more difficult that way. It's easier to integrate Claude Code inside of an IDE. Again, that's an integrated development environment, and I'm going to show you that here in a moment. But the one I recommend that you get started with is VS Code. Okay, and it stands for Visual Studio Code, but VS Code for short. It's owned by Microsoft. It's open source, and because it's open source, it's been cloned or copied, or what we call forked. And it's been forked into several different versions. And there's two other popular versions out there. There are many others, but there are two very popular ones called Cursor and Windsurf. Okay, and I want you to be aware of them. And you could choose to use those if you like. Look, I have used all of these. All right. And I currently recommend that you just go ahead and start with VS Code, because it doesn't have all this other distracting stuff that you're not going to use if you use Claude Code. Now, each of these other tools come with their own AI libraries built into them, but you're going to pay a fee for them, and they're not going to be as strong as Claude Code. Okay, so if there's one thing I've learned over the last year is that you get what you pay for. And you're either going to pay for this project either with your time or your money or both, right? And so what I have found is that your time is far more valuable than your money. If you don't believe that, then, if you had $1 million in the bank and a doctor told you that you were going to die, but if you purchased this cure that cost $1 million, then you could live. Would you spend that $1 million? Of course you could. Of course you would, right? And so we all know intuitively that our time is much more precious than money. But a lot of times when you use these other tools, you'll find out that they're cheaper, but you end up spending 10 times the amount of time, right? So I don't know about you, but I would rather just go ahead and pay a little bit more, and sometimes even twice as much, to get access to the tool that's going to get it done twice as fast, or maybe 10 times as fast, right? And that's what I found is the case with Claude Code. So I happen to, just full disclosure, I'm on the most expensive plan. It's called Claude Code Max, and it's the most expensive plan. It's $200 a month. You don't need that plan to get started. They have cheaper plans, but I'm here to tell you that you can't cheat that system. You can buy the cheaper ones, but you're going to spend so much time and frustration with them. You're just going to eventually end up spending the money and getting the better model. Okay, it's just the truth. Now, look, I'm not in love or married to any of these models, and I would change them tomorrow if a better one comes out. Right, and you'll be the first to know. I highly recommend that you remain flexible in this space. I see far too many people, fall in love with the model, and they swear by that model, and they refuse to even look at anything else. And I think that's crazy, because new models come out all the time, and some of them are far more capable. And wouldn't you want the fastest, most efficient tool? I promise you that your competitors are looking for a faster tool. They may have started after you, and they want to catch up and surpass you. So what are they going to do? They're going to find the fastest, most efficient AI tool. And so if you're not, keeping ahead of that curve or on the leading edge of that curve, you're going to fall behind very quickly, and you're going to get outpaced by your competitors. They're going to make better products faster. And in this field, the cool thing about AI is that we can shorten our development cycle. It used to take a year to develop an app, or maybe 6 months, and then more recently, maybe you could get it down to 3 months or 2 months. But with AI, you could develop an app in a weekend, in 2 days, and you could sell the thing, okay, in 2 days. And if it doesn't work after 2 days, then try another app. And you could, in the same time it would have taken you 2 years ago to build an app, you could build 10 apps or 100 apps as you get better at this. And as you get more shots on goal, you're going to start sinking some of those shots, and you're going to start winning. And that's what's cool and exciting to me about AI in this age that we live in. Okay, so again, take advantage of this AI, pay for the more expensive model if you can afford it, or get yourself into a position where you can afford that. If you need to pay off some other debt or do whatever you need to do, trust me, this will be a wise investment on your part. All right, now let's take a look at some of these tools. Enough talking, right? All right, so again, here's the raw and unscripted part. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go out, and we'll just use this map as a guide here, and we're going to install all of these, and we're going to play with all of these here, okay, and over the rest of this video. So stick with me. Now, the first one is GitHub. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go out to GitHub, and I already have a GitHub account, and I'm probably already logged in. So let's just go ahead and open up incognito here and go to GitHub. When you go to GitHub, it's going to look like this. And you're going to want to sign up for a GitHub account. It's free. Okay, now I have a paid version. It allows me to do a little bit more, but you don't need that. And you can, for free, they have a very generous free program. And that's going to be the theme of most of the tools that I show you today. They have a very generous free program. You're going to want to sign up for them. Remember, this is where you're going to keep your source code. All right. There are other places you can keep it, but by far, like 100 to 1 over the competitors, this is where people are keeping their code these days. Now, when you sign up for that free account, they will let you either have a public repository or a private repository, and many of them. Okay. Now, the public repository, as its name implies, would be that other people can find your source code, and they can make recommendations to maybe improve your source code. And we call those contributions. They do that through what's called a pull request. And we'll get into that later. There's not much you need to know about that, but just a few little tricks. But just be aware that you could have a public repository where your code is online, and people can see that code and they can actually make recommendations to improve it, or they can copy it for their own purposes. And you can put licenses on your code. There are many different types of software licenses. You can, by default, you have no license and people can do with it as they wish, or you can have more restrictive licenses all the way up through a spectrum. Okay, and you can do a little research on that if you're interested in protecting your source code later on, if you do happen to make it a public repository. Okay, now on this channel, we're going to be releasing some public code, some open source code, and you'll see that as we go. And I'll probably end up using the MIT license. I just sort of like that license. I may change my mind, but it's a very popular license these days. And that allows people to copy the software and they can do with it as they wish, as long as they keep the original license file, which would have my name in it or my company name in it. And that way, all the credit of creating it would still come back to me, but they could use it however they wanted. And so that's a really good license. Okay, so all of this is done on GitHub. So go ahead and sign up on GitHub, really easy. Okay. Now, the next one, let's see what we got here. The next one is Vercel. Okay, so you're going to want to go out to Vercel and sign up there. And again, I've already have an account there and have logged in. Let's see what it's going to look like. Let me go ahead and log out. Okay, so when you come to it, you're going to want to sign up. Okay, now when you start signing up for these sites, I recommend that if you already have a Gmail account, that you go ahead and just continue or sign up with your Gmail account. Okay, when you go to this button, it's going to have a similar screen and you can continue with your Google account. That's highly recommended. Let Google secure that password and that username. And that way, that's one less place that you're storing your username and password. Again, this channel is all about security, right? And that's what you're getting here and not elsewhere. So I'm going to give you a heavy dose of that if you hang around me long enough. All right. Now, I know you have a GitHub account because you just signed up for GitHub, right? So you can also continue with your GitHub account. All right. And that's a good best practice too, because now that you're getting into this world of development, you can just point everything to your GitHub account and let them handle the username and password. Okay. And it's only stored in one place on GitHub. And then these other sites will use that. They will basically just validate that you are that person through GitHub. All right. And so again, you sign up on Vercel. It's a free account. And we'll come back to that later when we push things to Vercel. You'll need those credentials that you've already created an account. All right. The next one is MongoDB. So if you go to mongodb.com, okay, let me try something here. All right. If you go to mongodb.com, you'll find that you can sign up there. And again, you can use that Google or that GitHub account that you've already just set up, right? And so, again, highly recommended that you leverage those accounts. You can go ahead and sign up. And on this one, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go in and we're going to want to get an API key. So I'm just going to sign in using my Gmail. Okay. And when you go in here, the first time, it's going to ask you to, set up what they call a cluster. A cluster is just like a group of databases. And you'll pick one of the free ones, and it'll be in regional. Pick one that's close to you, wherever you're at in the world. All right. And then what you'll want to do is once you get that cluster set up, then you'll want to hit this connect button right here. And what that will do is you come down here to MongoDB for VS Code, because we're going to need that in a moment. And you come in here and you're going to want to do what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to copy this connection string. All right. Now this connection string will have your password will be replaced. You'll replace your password right here. All right. Now, where do you get that password from and that username? Notice I have a username here. Now, of course, it's not going to show you the password here, and I'm thankful for that, right? Or I'd have to fuzz that out. But where do you get that username and password then? So what you do is you come over here and down under security, you come down to database access. And what you'll do is, you go to quick start here, and you will create a new user, and you give it a username, like I just gave mine, Harper AA, and you'll give it a good password, or you let it generate a very strong password, and that's highly recommended. It'll be a gnarly password, like 15 characters and upper, lower, and all that stuff, right? And you only need that once. So what you'll do is you'll copy that then, and then you want to secure that in a secure place. And I'm going to show you where to put that here in a minute. Okay. So for now, you want to just copy that or just have this page up and just leave it up. All right. And then in a moment, I'm going to show you where to store that. All right. You don't want to just put that anywhere, because these become the crown jewels, and these credentials become the most important thing about your application. You see, if a hacker could get access to this password and this username and that connection string that we just set up. Now, the one I showed you is just a test one. I'm not using that on anything real, and I wouldn't show you my production ones. And that's the point. You want to guard those with your life, right? Because as far as your business goes, your business is counting on the protection of those credentials. Okay. And you need to protect those. And by default, AI may or may not protect that. Okay. And so again, we're going to talk more about that on this channel and what to do with those. So, all right. So now we know how to get the connection string, and we know how to get the username and password. We're done with MongoDB, but leave those tabs open. I'm going to show you where to put those in a moment. All right. Let's come back to clerk.com. All right. So at this point, what we'll do is I want you to go to clerk.com, and I want you to hit start building, and that will help you sign up for an account. All right. Now I already have an account. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and log in. Again, I could use my GitHub or my Gmail. Okay. It says welcome back. All right. And what you're going to want to do, and I have several applications in here, and a lot of these are just test applications. But what you can do is you come in here. Let's see here. Let's figure this out. Okay, so this is configure application, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when you come in. All right, so I have product instance. Okay, here we go. You'll want to, when it comes in, you will have a workspace. Okay, that's what this is called. And within that workspace, you want to create an application. These are just previous ones that I've played with. They were just experiments. I'm not even using them anymore. But what you want to do is you want to build an application. You want to give it a name. So, I'm just going to call this one test one. But you would want to give it, you have something in mind that you want to build. You'd want to give it that name because you're going to have multiple of these applications, right? And you want to go ahead and create that application. And back on that previous screen, by the way, I should have shown you that. Let me just do that again. What I'll do is I'll delete this one. See? And I'm not going to edit this out because I want you to kind of see the process. I hope you appreciate that. Okay. So here we go again. Now I have one workspace. I'm going to keep that workspace. Okay. And then what you can do is you can, what I did was clicked on the workspace and go to create application, and I give it a name. This time I'll call this one test 2. Okay. Now by default, here's what it looks like on the right-hand side. Take someone's email address, and when they hit continue, then it's going to put a password in, or you can let them connect with Google, or you can let them connect with Facebook. See how easy that is? Apple, and so forth. Okay. And they will handle that for you on the back end. How cool is that? And look at all these different things that we could enable over here and make it easy on our users. Okay. Highly, highly recommended. All right. But just at least start with Google. All right. And then we want to create that application. Okay. And then they tell you what you need to do with that right here. All right. Now, this right here is the recommended way that you use Clerk and any application, by the way. You want to store these credentials. Remember, I told you I'm going to tell you where to store them. You want to store them in your .env file within your project. Okay. So I'll show you that here in a moment, but whenever I show it to you, now you'll know where to put it. And here's what you'll put in there. You put these two different things here. See, it says public Clerk publishable key, and then your secret key. Notice how they've masked that out. Okay. That is super, super sensitive. And if you hit this eyeball here, it would show it to you, but it's not recommended. You don't need to know what it is. It's a long, gnarly string, and you don't care as long as it's protected. But what you can do is you can copy that to the clipboard, and then you'll paste it in where I'll show you here in a moment. All right. So now we've got keys from two different things. We're ready to go. All right. We've got keys from our Mongo. We got keys for our Clerk. All right. And we could also get keys for Stripe. And I'll show you how to sign for Stripe, but we don't need to get an API key today because Clerk will handle that for us later. But you will need a Stripe account so that you can log into Stripe through Clerk. All right. And what you'll do is you'll come here. You don't have to contact sales. You can do start now. You put an email address in and start now. And I believe you can also hit the sign in button here and also hit, create an account. All right. Now I have lots of accounts for Stripe, and like I have like probably 20 of them. All right, so that's okay. Every time you set up a Stripe account, you either set it up on your personal account or in a business account. And most of mine are set up under business accounts. And if you set it up under a business account, then you're going to need your EIN. If you're in the U.S., that's your tax identifier number, and it's kind of a pain. So if you just want to play with this, you can just set it up on your personal name. Just know that they will collect the taxes, or excuse me, they will report you to the IRS or whatever jurisdiction you're in the world. They will report those taxes or that income, and you're going to have to pay the taxes. So that's why they need those codes. It's a little bit more involved, but you can set this up just with your personal account to start with, and then you're still then going to have to put your social security number in. And so just be aware of that. And that's what Stripe's all about. But you need to do that because they're going to handle those credit cards for you. All right. Now, and then the last one is Open Router, and then we're going to have some fun. So Open Router, when you go to Open Router, you will log in, and you'll have a login or sign up button up here. I'm already logged in. Okay, but just to save you some time, I'm just going to show you around a little bit. Here are all the models. When you click on the models button here, you can see they have all of the families of the AI models. So here's all the GPT ones, including the brand new GPT-5 just came out a day or so ago as of the recording of this video. And you can see the context window for that model. Okay, so that model is greatly increased in context size over the previous ones. Like the previous ones, like even O3 Pro had 200K. And look at this one, it's 400K, it's double. Okay, that's very impressive. And that's going to put pressure on the other models, including my favorite models, which are Anthropic. I'm looking forward to their context windows getting larger as well. All right, but here you can see the price of these models within here. And that's another cool thing with Open Router is you can shop around and you can get the better or the cheaper model and one that's better suited for what you're trying to do. Now notice that when it comes to models, there's like the base model. This is like the Pro model, and it's kind of expensive. It's $10 for 1 million tokens. Now a token, that's output tokens. So that means that, that's the response you get from the AI model. Now a token costs, there are basically 0.75 tokens per word. Okay, so that means that a little less than a word is a token, an average word. Okay, if it's a short word, then it's probably a token. All right, and so you get roughly a little less than 1 million words back, and that's 1 million words in your code or paragraphs in your essay that you're having it write or whatever. Right, that's output. Input is cheaper. Okay, thankfully. And then you can check the prices of all of these. I happen to like the Claude models, okay? And Claude Opus 4.1 is the best that it has right now. And look how expensive it is, okay? It is the best coding model out there. And again, this is why I subscribe to the Pro plan, because the Pro plan makes sure I don't have to pay these rates, okay? Because I'm already paying a fixed amount each month, and I can pretty much use all that I want in there. There are limits, but I've never hit those limits, okay? And so, again, that's why I pay for the max plan. You can pay for a cheaper plan, but then you hit those limits. And what happens is when you hit a limit, they bump you down to another model, a cheaper model. Okay, now look at the pricing pressure here. Okay, so here's their next best model. It's $15 per million. And so you could see that it won't be long before these guys get driven down. And I'm like, yes, amen. Competition is good. These guys are all racing to zero. But Open Router is a valuable tool for you to have in your toolbox because now you can see all these models in one spot. You can also see the rankings, like the popularity of like who's using these models. Right, so you can see on this particular day, here's all the models that are out there that are being used. You can see it here on the right-hand side. All right, and so again, very super useful tool. All right, now that was the last one. Now let's have some fun. All right, so we understand our tech stack. This is where we're heading. Okay, we will install this VS Code and Claude here in a moment, but let's go look at some other fun tools before that. The first thing we'll take a look at is v0.dev. All right. Let me get a couple more tabs open here. So let's look at v0.dev. Now v0.dev, when you come to it, it basically, you notice that they're letting you try the GPT-5 model just for a short period of time. And so they, again, have a very generous pricing model. I'm going to go ahead and sign into this because I have an account here. But again, they have a very generous pricing model, so go for it. By the way, these guys are made by Vercel. Remember I told you about Vercel? They are behind the leading web framework. And so they also have that very generous cloud hosting platform called Vercel that I mentioned to you. All right, so you're gonna like this V0 tool because it's made by those guys, right? So you can count on whatever they develop here is going to be made in Next.js, right? But what we're going to do is just we're going to do a little vibe coding here. We're going to say I want a fitness app that will help me track meals, exercise, and health vitals. I'm going to tell it to use Next.js because we're going to use this same prompt on other models, and I want it to be a fair comparison. But keep in mind, I wouldn't normally have to tell it this because they wrote Next.js. They're not going to use anything else. I'm going to say use Next.js and make the site attractive and engaging and colorful. Okay. Yeah, that's all I'm going to tell it. Okay. How's that for a prompt? That's all I'm going to tell it. Okay, so I'm going to copy that so I can use that here on other ones. I'm going to hit send. All right, now this is going to take, about 5 minutes or so. And we're going to go off and do some other things, and we're going to come back and check on it. But it's thinking, right? And here in a moment, it's going to start writing the code. And this is vibe coding. All right, look, mom, no hands. All right, so this is vibe coding in its essence. I gave it a sentence, and then we're going to iterate. We're going to see what it does, and then we're going to tell it to change some things. Okay, and again, that's vibe coding. Notice I'm not writing any code. The AI is going to write it for me. All right, now in the meantime, let's go ahead and get another tab going here, and let's go to bolt.new. We're going to compare these and see how they do. Now, these guys also have a free plan, but I've already used the free credits up, and they're going to want me to put a credit card in. So I'm going to sign up with a different account. Let's see here. Okay, let me sign out of this one, and I'm going to get started with a different account. I'm going to use this other account I have. And I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've used this one before. Okay, yeah, so I'm logged in, all right, and I have a number of free credits. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I say, I want a fitness app, okay? I want you to track meals, exercise, and health vitals. Use Next.js and make the site attractive, engaging, and colorful. Hit send. All right, so it's off doing its thing, and it's thinking about it, and it's going to start writing the code. Let's go see how V0 is doing. Okay, notice it's writing all this code here, but we don't need to know any of that code, right? All right, so while it's cooking, let's go to Lovable. It's called lovable.dev. They got an update lately, and it's pretty good, right? So, and it looks like they're going to use GPT-5 too to give us a taste of it. So let's go ahead and put the same one in, and I hope I haven't used all my free credits up for this. If so, then we'll come back and try it again with another account. Oh, look at that. You've reached your daily messaging limit. All right, so fine with me. I don't use these tools for my apps, but I want to show them to you. So I'm not going to sign up with it today. But what I will do is I will use a different one just to demonstrate it for you here. Because we want an apples to apples comparison. And again, I'm sort of happy I'm running into these issues because I want you to see, like, I'm not going to edit this out. Like, I want you to see the thought process, and we're going to run into some other issues as we go, I'm sure, because I'm going to build all of this in public. We're going to build a number of security tools, and if you hang out with me, you're going to see how it's all done, and with no gatekeeping, right, and no secrets. And we're going to put it all out there and help you guys do this securely. So I got it up. Let's go ahead and hit. It says you're not authorized to perform this action. Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on one second. I think it's still caching. Okay. Lovable.dev. Log in. Use Google. And okay, now that actually is not going to work because I'm going to have to find that password. Give me 1 second. For some reason, it logged me back into my free workspace here. And it says I have 5 left. Okay, let's go back. Try this again. Okay. Okay. Try this one more time. Otherwise, then I will have to get that password. Okay, what I don't like here. Okay, I think it did it that time. Let's see. Okay, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I hit the wrong button. Again, I'm not going to edit that out. All right, I want you to see like me run into these and work my way through it. Okay, hopefully that'll be fun. All right, so notice here, it's going to, so this project in Lovable, they like to use Vite, not React. And I'm going to say, no, use Next.js. I stopped it, and I'm going to tell them, I'm going to see if I can get it to use Next.js. It may not, because it may not be trained on Next.js. Okay, see here, Lovable projects are built on React Vite. Okay, Vite is a competitor to Next.js. They use React under, both of them use React under the hood. And so, okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll see what it does. Okay, all right, so we got 3 of them cooking now. So let's see what we got here. All right, so here's the first one. Okay, so here's my app. It's called Fit Track. Okay, it's colorful. That's what we asked for. And let's see what we can do here. Let's see if these buttons work. Because sometimes like you go clicking on these buttons and it won't work. Okay, so we can log a meal. So it puts today's date. Chicken. 250, protein 25, carbs, I don't know. 5. Okay, add a meal. Oh, so it added it down here. And it came with some sample meals. That's cool. Let's see if we can delete the sample meals. Yeah, it looks like we can. Very cool. Okay, we can enter our exercise. We can add a workout. Here's just some sample ones. I really like how it gave us some sample ones so we can see them. And here's some vitals. Okay, and so we can see our vitals over time. And then we can get, look at this, in our overview, we can actually see a trend. That's pretty cool. And that's what we call a one-shot app, meaning I put one prompt in, and it was even longer than it needed to be because remember, it was redundant. I told it to do Next.js. I didn't have to do that. Look at this. Look how cool this is that it made this snazzy app with just this sentence. Like, that's amazing. Okay, you could never do this before now. And this is version 1. We could tell it, change the name of the app to my fitness app. I'm real creative today. But this is what vibe coding is about. So I just tell it what to do, and it's going to, in a minute, it's going to go ahead and change this, and it's going to make version 2. Okay, let's go see what the other ones are doing here for us. Let me see if I can get to the other ones here. Where was my bolt.dev? I know we had one. Our bolt.new. Yeah. Where's that app that we had going? Oh, okay. I was pretty sure that we had that. Well, let's get it going again. I must have overwrote it with one of these Lovable ones. All right, so let's see what Lovable came up with. Okay, Fit Tracker. Amazing that it called it the same thing, right? It's because it's all trained on the same stuff. Must be a bunch of Fit Tracker apps out there. And let's see how this one did. Okay, so this is Lovable, all right? So we can add a meal. Oh, I noticed that these buttons don't work. Okay, so this is the case with a lot of these apps. Okay, so this would be a downside to Lovable, okay? It gave us a pretty dashboard and all here, but like it's not usable, right? Let's see, even the profile button doesn't work. I can't do any of this. So I would have to tell it, okay, now add the other page, all pages for the app. They are, and the buttons currently do not work. You can misspell like I just did. It's smart enough. All right, so there it goes. And this is a common pitfall with vibe coding. Like sometimes it'll just take the first step and you expected it to do more, but that's okay. All right, now we're going to iterate. And the more you do this, the more you learn to like ask it to do that right up front. right? Had more experience with Lovable, I probably would have known that, hey, I need to tell it in the first prompt to add all pages. I want a complete app. Okay, but you notice I didn't have to do that with v0.dev. That's kind of why I like that one. If you're going to use one of these apps, start with v0.dev. All right, and then let's see how Bolt's cooking here. All right, we'll come back to that. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, so we've looked at these right now. Let's go ahead and look at VS Code. All right, so to get VS Code, we want to go to the download site. Just Google download VS Code. Okay, and download VS Code. You'll see the first link here. And depending on what platform you're on, whether you're on Windows or Linux or Mac, I happen to be on a Mac, you go ahead and run the installer, okay? And then once it comes up, it will look like this, okay? And keep in mind that the other ones, like I said, Cursor and Windsurf, they're just copies of VS Code. So they will look a whole lot like this, all right? Now when it comes up, now, okay, it looks like our Bolt is done. Let's go ahead and run it. Oh. Looks like my Phantom is messing with this. Okay. All right, we still have not much luck with Bolt today. Actually, it looks like one of my plugins called Phantom was messing with it. I have no idea why. And it looks like it may be out of tokens. And we're not going to sign up for other ones. All right. So Bolt was a failure. All right. And they're not getting any money off me today. Maybe you'll have more luck. That's disappointing though. Let's see. Hold on one second. Just before we give up on this, let's try this comprehensive. Let's see if it did do the app, because it never even showed it to us. In fairness to it, it tried to, and I think my plugin killed it. Okay, let's just see if we get lucky. No. See, so this is what happens with vibe coding. Sometimes these apps don't work. All right, so forget Bolt for now. You can play with that though. All right, so when you're playing with VS Code, and this is where I recommend that you end up, right? You're gonna find that those other sites are limited. And you're gonna find that, they don't always work and they crash, and or you're gonna hit a limit, particularly when it comes to security, which is what, again, this channel is all about. There's some things we want to do security-wise that those other apps aren't going to let you underneath the hood to make those changes. All right, we want more control. All right, and the way we get more control is we go into our own IDE. Now, by the way, we can start with one of those other ones like v0.dev, and we can synchronize, like right here at the top of the app of v0.dev. What you can do is you can connect to GitHub, and we could push this code up to GitHub, and then what we could do is we could download it into our IDE. And you may decide that you want to do that because maybe you like starting out and just kind of winging it in one of these web apps. All right, but what I'm going to show you is how we can use Claude Code to do the same thing here within your IDE. Now I have installed, like I said, VS Code, and what you do is you go up to the file and you go down to open folder, and what you could do is you can then choose a folder, or you can select a new one, and I created one called test. All right, and I've got one file in it. And right now, this one file is just a placeholder, and it has a place for, this is where I'm going to store my secret keys. I want you to get in the habit of storing your secret keys in a file called .env. Okay, it's very important that you put them there and not in the rest of your source code. Okay, and then in a little bit, what we're going to do is we're going to initialize this project, and we're going to make sure that we have a .getignore file that'll make sure that this file never gets pushed up to GitHub. Okay, so these are security best practices, right off the bat. All right, so we've learned about Clerk and using Clerk for user authentication, and now we're learning about where to put all of our secret keys, right? These are your secrets as a developer and as a business owner. All right, so here's placeholders. Remember I told you about the Clerk, the two Clerk keys, they go here, Okay, these are just placeholders. So what you do is double click on them, and then you would copy paste in, and you keep this equal sign, and you just paste it in here. All right, and then these are just default what do you call it, variables for clerk. We just leave those right now. And then I also showed you how to get your Mongo connection string, right? And you want to copy that connection string and just replace all of this. Okay, I think you could double click here. Now you're gonna have to drag like this and replace that whole line. All right, and then your database name that you gave it and when you set it up in Mongo, you're gonna put that here. All right, you'll also find that typically at the end of your connection string is your database name. All right, and then Open Router. The one thing we didn't do is get our keys from Open Router. What you do is just go to over your user and you go down to keys, and what you do is you'll create an API key. Okay, and you give it a name, and then you can give it a limit for, like, you know, your credit. This is a good idea. Like sometimes I'll put like a $10 limit on it so that if I do something stupid and my app runs crazy, the worst it's going to cost me is $10, right? Now I'm going to hit the limit, and then I'm going to know something was stupid, right? And then I can go back and fix it. And you just put these in, you hit the create, and it's going to pop up with that sensitive, very sensitive API key, right? And then when you get that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to then install that, or you're going to want to put that API key right here. Right, and then you leave these. Well, this is the actual API URL. Okay, that's the endpoint, we call it, for Open Router. And then here's where the model that you choose the model. And where do you get that model from? When you're in here and you're playing with models and you're searching, let's say you want to play with the GPT-5, right here is you copy this, and that model, for example, would go right here. Whoop. I just highlight it all and hit Control V. Or on Apple, it's Apple V or Command V. And so that's how you get that model from Open Router. All right, and with that, then we are set then to build like an app out and actually access like AI models and stuff later on. We're not going to do that today, all right? And but I just want to show you for future reference, like I'll refer back to this video, and I want you to know where to store your environmental variables, okay? Now, where did I come up with these names? I actually asked Claude Code a little while ago, what are common environmental variables for Clerk, for Mongo, and Open Router, and give me those in a .env file, and it created that for me. Okay, all right, and we can repeat that in a moment, but I just wanted you to see right up front where you put those environmental variables. Now, once you come into, like I said, your VS Code, you won't have that file. Okay, now what you can do is you can click right here and create that file. Or you can have Claude Code do it for you, which is what I recommend and what I did. All right. Now, once you come in here, what you do is you hit this button right here. This one that has a lower panel on it. It says toggle panel. And what that will do is that will give you then a terminal window. Okay. And let me back out of here and clear this. All right. When you come in, yours is going to look like this. It's going to be empty. Okay. And what you'll want to do is we're going to need to now install Claude Code. Now, what you'll do is you go out on the internet and you just look for, let's see here, Claude Code install. Set up Claude Code. Okay, now the first thing that you'll need to install Claude Code is Node.js. Okay, Node.js, that's the underlying engine that all of this stuff runs on. Okay, it's a JavaScript library, it's a server library, and you're going to need that. So you would go ahead and go to that, and when you go there, it's going to give you installers. It knows that I'm on Mac because it detected that automatically. If you're on Windows, you will see the Windows installers or Linux. Okay, and you're going to want to install that. Okay, it's very important. You need to do that before you can go any further. And then once you have that installed, all you need is this command line right here. It's called npm. That stands for Node. Remember, this is the Node library. Node Package Manager. Okay, so npm install global, and this is the library that's going to install. And by doing it globally, then we only have to install it once. Okay, and it'll work anywhere on our system that we want it. Okay, not just inside of VS Code. All right, so what we would do is we'd copy this, and we come back to our VS Code where we have our terminal waiting for us. I'm going to make this just a little bigger for you, just so you can see it. And we would just paste this in. Now, I'm not going to run this because I've already run it before. But when you run it, it essentially then will come up and ask you, it'll give you a link, and it'll take you off so that you can sign up for Claude Code. and you're going to need to give them a credit card. All right. And again, they have plans. So let's see, Claude code plans. Okay. Let's see, pricing. Okay, I'm not sure if this is where you get it. Okay, yeah, here it is. All right, so they have a free model, all right, but you don't get too much with it, all right? And then they have a pro model that's $17 a month. You get more usage out of that, okay? I happen to be on the max plan. They have 2 max plans. They might have 3, but they started $100. I started there, but then I very quickly went to the $200 plan. And that's because I'm a power user and I'm in this a lot. So again, you just, your mileage may vary. You start wherever you can, and eventually, believe me, you're going to end up probably in the max plan because you're going to like it and how powerful it is and how much time it saves you, right? Remember I was telling you about that. All right, so once we've signed up, again, to Claude Code, then what we're going to want to do is run this command, Claude. Simple. Okay, and once we run it the first time, it knows that this is an empty project, and it's giving us some tips to start here. Okay, and it's also, let's see, yeah, okay. We can also run help, for example, and it'll tell us more about it. I often recommend that when you're first learning a program, run the help and just kind of, learn about the application to start with, right? So here's some things that Claude will do. It's a command line tool, so it's all text driven, right? Not a lot of buttons to click, okay? So what you can do is you can just, first of all, just be aware that you can talk to Claude. You can just ask it things. You can say, what does this file do? Or how do I install, this application? Or how do I connect Git to VS Code? It'll tell you all of that. And it'll give you, it's basically a coach and a mentor to you, like a coding mentor, a coding buddy, but it's a master, right? It's a sensei. There's some other things you can do with it you need to be aware of. You can do agents. So you could set up like an agent, for example, like a security agent, and we'll do that in a future video. And it'll always be watching your code and trying to help you secure it, for example. You can clear the screen with the clear command. There's something called compact that I need you to be aware of. Remember, I told you about context windows. Well, all AIs have a context window. GPT-5 has 400,000 tokens, remember? That's its context window. But it turns out that Claude has 200,000 on the output, all right? So this this chat dialogue that you're gonna end up building, it can only get up to 200,000 tokens before it runs out of space. And what it's gonna do then is gonna compact that, and it's gonna basically take those 200,000 tokens and compress them down to like, 5,000 token or so. And it's going to make a summary of that whole page essentially. And the danger in that is it's going to lose details as it does that summary. And then it's going to continue. All right. So you could continue these chats, for days, but you're always losing the previous memory. Like you're getting, it's a faint memory from yesterday, and the day prior is even fainter, right? Because you have these summaries and they keep getting compressed and summarized. All right. So just be aware of that. It is best practice to, as you're losing your context window, you're getting smaller and smaller. It will warn you down here in the lower right-hand side. It will say, I think at 20% or 15%, it starts picking up that, hey, you have 15% of your context left. And that's your cue that, hey, you're running out of space. Now, again, if you run past it, it's not the end of the world. It would just compress everything above, and you're going to have to remember that, hey, it's probably going to lose some of those details. It's going to lose a lot of those details. So you're going to have to tell it again. You're going to find yourself repeating yourself a lot to AI. That's okay. That's just the nature of it. Now, eventually, these context windows will get longer. And when they get up to like, several million characters, then this won't be a problem, right? And we'll forget about context windows at some point, right? That's where they're all heading, but it'll take us, another year or so to get there. Until then, we have to manage our context. You have to manage the memory that this thing has, all right? And what the best practice is, as you see the context dwindling down, it says 12%, 8%, 7%. Okay, that's your cue that you might want to wrap up the train of thought that you're on and tell it and run the compact command yourself, because that way you ensure that whole train of thought is in the summary. Otherwise, what will happen is it'll just go ahead and summarize in the middle of your train of thought, and you will get half of it in the summary and half of it still out. Okay, and then that's suboptimal. Okay, it won't work as well going forward. Like you're gonna have to repeat yourself. You're gonna have to tell it what you just told it like an hour ago, and that gets frustrating sometimes. So just if you can manage your own context window, that's helpful. All right, and there's a couple other interesting commands here, but the one I want to get you to is IDE. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, we're going to go IDE, /IDE. All the commands in Claude are slash commands. So /IDE, and it's going to recognize for us that we're using Visual Studio Code, VS Code, and we want to say yes. We hit return, and what you see is over here it said IDE connected. Very quickly. I wish it would stay there longer, and that's what this blue circle means, is that our IDE is connected. Now, if you're using another one like Cursor or Windsurf, they look and work very similarly, but you pay extra for those, and there's a lot of bells and whistles in those tools that if you're using Claude Code, you don't need. And that's why I recommend you just go back to VS Code. Now, maybe in a future video, I'll show you those other ones, but again, to me, it's just distracting, and it's extra cost for nothing. And they have free versions, but again, this is free as well. So just use VS Code if you're just getting started. Now, if you're a power user already and you came to my video just for the security aspects, just use whatever is good for you. I'm not trying to take an IDE out of your hand. All right. So you want to connect Claude Code to your IDE though. So now they're kind of knit together, and that's going to give us some nice functionality. It's going to let us see some file differences and things like that. All right. So that's a cool trick. Now, again, how did I get that env file? I just told it. I said, what are the common env.env variables for clerk, Mongo, and what was the other one? Clerk, Mongo, and OpenRouter. And I told it the last time I told it, like if I scroll up or in the other terminal I had, I actually told it to build this .env file. But this time I've already got the env file, so I'm not going to tell it to do it again. But it's going to tell you what they are, okay? And so it's working on it. And it's going to tell you what they are, all right? And you could copy those into an env file. All right, so this is Claude Code. So now you're using Claude Code. Let's do one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's compare how it does in building a website. Okay, so remember we gave it this prompt. Let's see how Claude Code does. Now, while that's working on that, let me tell you how to connect your GitHub to Claude Code. There are two ways. The easiest way is if you just go out on the internet and you search for VS Code and GitHub, you'll find this tutorial on working with GitHub and VS Code. And the easiest thing you can do is click this button here, and it'll basically help you install an extension. And this extension up here, I've already installed it. But when you come in, you hit the install button, and it will help you then log into your GitHub account, which you created already, right? And so that's one way that you can install it. And let me see. Let me take you back to this. And when you come in, it'll have a sign in button, and you'll go ahead and sign in to your GitHub. By the way, when you do GitHub, I recommend that you do multi-factor authentication. Okay, we covered that in my last video. You're going to want to secure that password with multi-factor authentication on your GitHub, because you're eventually going to put like your crown jewels up in there, like all your source code for your business application. And you don't want somebody else to be able to guess your username and password and log in there and take that stuff over, right? And steal your code or worse, like subvert your code with vulnerabilities and then harm your users. That would be a really bad day, right? So walk through this. Well, that's the only thing you really need to do is be able to sign in with GitHub. The other thing that you can do, or that you also need to do, is you're going to need to install Git on your system. And so what you do is just go out and Google for the Git homepage. It looks like this. And when you go to it, it will give you a binary that you can actually install the application of Git. And you're going to need that anyway on your system. So once you've done those two things, then what you can do from then on out, just within VS Code, you can use the Git buttons over here. And I'll teach you in future videos. You just hit a few buttons and you can push your code up to the cloud. Okay, so you don't need to know all of the functionality, which is vast, of Git. You just need to know some survival skills, and I'll teach those to you, okay, a little bit later. All right, so when you're using Claude Code, and I should have been watching this a little closer, it's a perfect gentleman. It'll never do things without asking you the first time at least. And when you start a new session, it's going to ask you a lot. But as you keep this session open for days sometimes, it will ask you less and less because it's remembering your previous answers. So it's asking you, hey, do you want to install this stuff? And you can trust it. I trust it, and I'm a power user. I've never seen it harm me or try to harm me or delete anything or overwrite anything that was sensitive or anything like that. It's never hurt me. Okay, so I believe you can trust it like to take action on your behalf. So what you do is you either say yes, but the next time it's going to try to install something, you're going to have to say yes again. Or what you can do is say yes and don't ask me again, right? Or you can sell it no, like because like I don't want you to install that library. I want you to put this other library in. As you get more advanced, you may find yourself saying no sometimes to it, but that's very rare for me. Usually, I just say number two, which is yes and don't ask me again. I'm busy, right? It says, do you want to use ESLint? And I'm going to say yes. ESLint is a linting tool so that it can kind of check behind itself and make sure that it doesn't have errors in the code. Okay, now it's going to ask if you want to CD in, or create this folder, CD into it, and install these other things. And you say yes. Okay. Now it's smart enough to know that it was trying to CD into a folder that doesn't exist. So now it's going to ask you, do you want to make that folder? Yes. Okay. After you've trained it like this, then it won't ask you that anymore during this session. There's a way actually that you can put it in a mode where it won't ask you this at all, but I don't recommend that because I want you to learn this stuff. Even if you're saying yes, you're still learning because you should read these things. And then, by the way, if you don't know what these things are, which you won't the first time you do it, then if you want to become a power user, you need to start opening up another terminal over here. You hit the plus button here, you type Claude again, and you get another chat going, and you say, what is this command? And you copy paste it over. Right? Or when it comes up and asks you if you want to do it, you just go down to say no, and then you tell it, hey, explain each one of these commands before you run them. I want to learn. Like I could go down here and I could say, explain each one before you ask me if you want to run it because I want to learn, and it will explain it to you. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead just for the sake of this and just say number two and tell it to go ahead and do its thing. Okay, so it's writing all that code that the other sites were writing, but you have more control over it. I hope you see that. It's kind of good, but in the beginning, it may be a little confusing to you, but trust me, it's far worth it, your time, to have more control in the end. You're going to have better control over the output. It's giving you its thought process too. You're learning, you'll just by watching it, you'll learn, things will start to stick. You start to see patterns and you start to recognize before you know it, you'll start to learn a little code. Oh, God forbid, right? Yeah, it won't hurt. Trust me. And you'll learn a little bit of code along the way and you'll get more confidence as you go because you've done this a few times. Like we're just building the first app here, like a fitness tracker, right? Like imagine building, that 100th shot on goal, right? That we talked about. Like by then this stuff's going to be second nature and you're just going to be flying through it. It's going to take you just, a couple minutes to build these apps. Okay, I can already see now that it's going ahead and installing Clerk. Okay, so this was probably a mistake for me to add the environment. In fact, I'm going to show you what to do in that case. I hit escape and I'm going to stop it, right? Because I don't want an unfair comparison with those because I didn't tell the other apps to do that. Okay, I just wanted to show you where to put those. So the best thing I can do now is just go ahead and delete that file. And then I'm going to tell it, I have deleted the .env for this iteration. I do not want you to use Clerk, Mongo, or Open Router. Simply build the fitness app as I asked originally. Okay, you just talk to it. You talk to it like a developer that you just hired, because essentially you did. Okay, you're paying for it, right? And you talk to it. You have a conversation with it. And so what it's doing now is it's deleting some things that it was trying to go down this road, and you say, no, I don't want you to go down the road. That's why you do need to watch it. And it will sometimes go further than you expected it to because it's trying to be super helpful. And you're like, no, I wasn't ready for that yet. In this case, if we were really building it, I'd be like, yes, see, that's more power, right? But it's not a fair comparison with what these other apps look like, and I do want to show them to you. Let's see what Lovable came up with since we told it to complete those pages. Okay. Preview latest. Okay. It says this is the latest, but it's still not. Okay. Here are the other pages up here. See how this is kind of disjoint? I could tell it, hey, the menu is not lined up with the other pages. Fix that, right? And you could see now there are other pages here, and there are some functionality that I can click on, but a lot of it's still not working. Okay, so this is what you get, like with these apps. Okay, and that is just the state of the art out there. But this is like by design. Like, I mean, it's not by design, but like you should not be surprised when this happens. Like as a vibe coder, you're going to run into this all the time. Like the app's you're going to tell it to do something, it's not going to do quite right. And then you're going to have to come in and tell it. Like if I were really using Lovable and I were paying for it, I'd come back down here and I would iterate. I'd say, no, you still haven't completed all of the pages. Please complete all the pages. I find it helpful to be polite to the app. You don't have to do that, but after all, eventually when these things take over and they have a memory of all that you've ever typed into them, you might want to have a pleasant memory in there, right? Okay, so you choose. So right out the gate, though, I was impressed, and look, we've never really had to mess with this one from V0. Again, if I were going to pick one of those web app builders, I would use v0.dev. But actually, I would encourage you to get on with using this one, which is the Claude Code, because sooner than later you're gonna end up here anyway. So you might as well just skate where the puck is going, right? Okay, so it's built the core part of it. Now it's building the exercise tracking component. You can see it right here. It's kind of neat how it builds like a task thing here. So we can see it started going down that road. Then we told it to remove the clerk. It's creating the homepage with a colorful design. It built the meal tracking component. It added navigation and layout. Okay, now it's building the exercise tracking, and then it'll build the health. Okay, if this takes much longer, then I will kind of spare you this and cut some of this out on the editing. Okay, let's go back and take a look at our framework and see where we're at. Okay, so we've installed all of these. We understand all of these now. We've tried v0.dev, Bolt New, Lovable. We've done VS Code and Claude Code. Okay, now let me show you just briefly these two. Again, these are just copycats, and they do have free plans that don't give you much, but you can pay for these if you like. But again, these are cheap imitations of Claude Code and VS Code. Okay, just being honest with you. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Let's see. Here's Cursor. When you go to Cursor's site, you can download it. There'll be a binary here, and you can sign up. Now, I already have a Cursor account. I don't use it anymore, and I actually downgraded it to the free because I never use it. But it looks a lot like VS Code, because it is VS Code underneath the hood. What's funny to me is they only show you the code sections. They don't show you the whole interface, because then you would know that it looks an awful lot like VS Code. Okay. Another tool over here is Windsurf. Okay. Again, very popular tool. And same look and feel, right? You would download it here, you would sign up, and sometimes I do actively use this one, but there's really no reason to. I'm just, again, it gives me no functionality over VS Code. All right, so we've covered everything on our roadmap. In the future, I'll cover some other sections of that roadmap, and those that are in my group that I mentioned, that where I support founders that are launching AI startups. That roadmap is vast, and we get into the security aspects, and we'll touch on parts of that in future videos. And you can find out more of that information inside of my my support group, which you can find again in the link in the description here. All right. Okay, it's writing the last page here. And in case you're curious, here's where the code is located. We can see it's creating a dashboard for us. And while it's doing that, let me go ahead and just give you a glimpse of what the code looks like. Okay, so inside of our fitness tracker, we see the main app code is here. Okay, so this will be where the main pages are. We have an exercise page, a meals page, a vitals page. Again, you don't need to know any of this, but eventually you're going to be curious. You're going to start clicking around because you can. And some of this is going to start to stick, and you're going to start to learn. You're going to start to learn to look at some of these and learn a little bit about coding. Did I say that? No, it's not necessary, but eventually I think you will get there just by doing this enough. But it's not necessary. And so here's some subcomponents that are on those pages. So here's the navigation subcomponent. Here's some other things that are not important. None of this really is important to you. as these other pages that are being created. Now here in just a moment, it will finish this page, and then we'll be able to look at it and see if we can compare it with the others. Okay, there it goes. So overall, it took maybe 5-10 minutes to write this app. Had I been paying attention earlier, I could have told it to proceed a couple times and probably figured out that it was on the wrong track faster. Okay, so now it's going to run the app. So it says, do you want to run it? And I say yes. And it's going to give us a link for the app. And this is going to be a local link. And in future videos, what I'll do is I'll show you how to push this up to Vercel. Okay, we do that through GitHub. Okay, so by default, Next.js apps run on port 3000. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll hold down my command button. If you're on Windows, you'd hold down the control button, and I'm going to click here, and it's going to launch our app locally. Okay, and so we have an error. What we'll do, and I'm glad actually you're seeing this, okay, and I didn't expect this, but that's okay. What we'll do is we'll copy the error right here. I'm going to just show you not to be intimidated by errors. And I come over here, and I'm just going to paste that error. And when I hit Command V or Control V on Windows, it's going to paste in those lines right there. And it's going to go, oh, I see there's an error. And it'll fix it, believe me. I'm glad we saw that, because you're going to see errors, believe me. You'll see less of them, I believe, with Claude Code, and I'm actually surprised I saw that. And in the months I've been working with it, I've never seen it mess that up. But, you know, 1 out of 50 times or something, it does it. That's okay. It's actually good for you to see it. You just paste it in. You don't need to know what that error is. You don't care. You just know that you got an error, and you paste it in. Now, one of the things I'll say that is an advantage is if you use... if you do happen to use Cursor or Windsurf, those tools will sometimes find the error for you, and you won't have to even copy paste it in. It'll notice the error automatically, and it'll start working on it before you even notice it. Okay, but that's okay. Like I said, it so rarely happens in Claude Code that I'm not concerned. Okay. All right, so now it's checking that that page is up and that it doesn't have errors. Okay. Okay. All right, so now it's up. It's giving you a summary here. And what we can see is we have a home page, we have a meal tracking, exercise, health, dashboard. It says it's beautiful, okay? We're going to see. Vibrant gradient colors, okay? Purple, pink, red, okay? Look forward to seeing that. Smooth animations, okay? All right, let's see what we got here. Claude Code. I'm going to command click. Ooh, snazzy. I'm not the biggest fan of the pink. I think maybe it's a little overdone, but you can't say it's not colorful. Notice how there's a little bit of like gradient happening here. It's turning from like purple into pink. That's kind of cool. The other sites weren't doing that. Let's see here. We can start tracking. Let's see if this stuff works. Ooh, look at this. Snazzy. Okay. Oh, colors just changed. All right. We can add a meal. All right. Yeah, it looks like all this stuff works. It didn't have sample data in it. But you know what? I could go back to Claude Code and just say, hey, give me sample data on all the pages, and it'll do that. Okay. And pretty cool. Let's see. We've got exercise page here. We've got our vitals. And we've got that cool dashboard with like, we can hover over things. And I almost want to see the sample data in here, but I won't keep you that long. This video is long enough already. So I tell you what, thank you for staying this long with me. Again, subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you're made aware of new videos that I create. And I'm probably going to do some live videos, so that way you won't miss them. You'll get that notification if I go live. And we're going to build all of this stuff in public. just like I did here today. And we're going to build out some security tools and some scanning tools, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to make a difference. We're going to impact the world for good, and we're going to use our powers for good. And that's what my mission is all about. So again, thank you for joining me. And until next time, have a blessed day.